Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Hi there, Vaishnavi. So nice to see you. All right. Okay. So, good evening to everyone who's joined us here on a Sunday evening. I'm really glad you had got time for this special rendezvous session. Now, the PhD 101 rendezvous series is about capturing the various elements which goes behind the development of individuals in various fields. Now, just to give a background about today's session, we have Dr. Vaishnavi Yeleswarapu along with us. So, a little bit about Vaishnavi, I think, let me just put out for everybody here who's keen to hear from her. Now, as the posters describe, she's someone who has got varied experiences from working all the way starting from the Oxford Dental College in Bangalore and then going on to pursue a master's in dental public health at the Bard School of Medicine and Dentistry in London. Then she's been involved in various interesting programs and also worked with the Diabetes UK Foundation and finally decided to come back and start something of her own. And that resulted in the formation of Truth Comics. Now, that's quite an intriguing name to begin with. So we'll know more about this when we engage in conversation over the next 30, 40 minutes, trying to get to know the person. And I'm sure, Vaishnavi, your story would relate to many of us who gathered here. And that really sets the prelude for many more aspiring dentists who wish to take the off-beaten track and bring about some tangible change in the society today. So first and foremost, welcome Vaishnavi to PhD
Thank
101.
you, Ramsey. Thank you so much for having me, and also to all the participants. Thank you for coming.
Great. So quickly, we have all our participants here. Let's just say hello to each other. Yes, Dr. Gnanashri. Okay, we have Dr. Adritanaya, who will be also coming up with a special performance for us. Yes, Dr. Gnanashri, what brings you here?
Hello, good evening. It's like I always heard a lot of dentists speaking about various topics. So this particular series is something very new, like कुछ हटके जो करके आते हैं life में. So this is something which really makes our Sunday evening special since a long time. So I think we all are looking forward to hear it from Dr. Vaishnavi. How was her journey from being a dentist to being like a comic this thing and all. So I think this is something really special, really unique she has done. So we all are looking forward to this great session. All the very best. We all are eager to listen to your story, Dr. Vaishnavi.
That's
Thank you
really
so
sweet
much.
and kind of you, Steve. Yes, so we have Dr. Manishri is a final year postgraduate in the Department of Periodontics. Moving on, we have, like always, PhD 101 comprises of people from different years of study, all of us somewhat related to dentistry, I would say. We have with us Dr. Adritanaya Tiwari, who is an intern. Yes, Adri, what brings you here?
First of all, I was very intrigued by the fact that, you know, how when we join this field, we are told that you have to do your UG, then you have to do your PG, then you set up a clinic. There is a kind of a specific way that you are supposed to go for. But I was very interested in, learning about taking the road less taken, because Dr. Vaishnavi, she did. I read about her. I looked up her Truth Comics page on Instagram, and it was very interesting. I have a lot of. I've not met a lot of people who diverge from the conventional field in our dental or medicine, and so I was very intrigued about it. And also I came here because I was asked to sing. so, so there's that.
Looking forward to your song.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining in.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I think what really brings us all together in synchronizing together and bringing forward the collective energies. All of us are doing different things in dentistry to the best of our abilities. But then something like this, actually, where there's exchange of ideas and this offers as a platform where you can discuss, share experiences, is the need of the hour. Mainly because we need to hear from real people and real stories. In fact, when Carissa and me curated this series of Rendezvous together, that was the whole point of it, is to bring forward and capture as many human stories with a relatable factor for our students to actually get inspired and take this forward in their own way. So yes, that's just a little bit about this. And for all the audience here, yes, I can see Dr. Srinidhi is here. Yes, Srinidhi, can you hear us? Can you say hello to everybody?
Yes, sir, I can hear.
Hello, yes. So Srinidhi is a postgraduate from PGI, correct? Srinidhi, kindly introduce yourself to everybody else here.
Hello, everybody. Myself, Dr. Srinidhi Hegde, and I'm currently doing my first year post graduation in a specialty public health dentistry in PGIDS Rohtak. Thank you.
Nice. Okay, so that's nice to have Srinidhi on board. She's again an alumni of PDCH, and he's taken up a very unconventional specialty. And I remember in one of our discussions, she was something who I really wish would take up dental public health because all the potential that she shares. So good to know that. We also have Dr. Chaiti Sarkar. Yes, Dr. Chaiti, can you say hello to everybody from Maulana Azad? Yeah, Chaiti, if you can hear us. Okay. So that's really interesting that we have different people from different years of study. Like I said, the only thing which puts all of us together is all of us are doing something in dentistry, right? And that's would be the best way to describe this. For all our participants, again, we also are going YouTube live, so people will be watching that as well. A little bit about our speaker today, Dr. Vaishnavi. Dr. Vaishnavi has a bachelor's in dental surgery from the Oxford Dental College, Bangalore. She briefly worked in a private practice before pursuing her master's in dental public health at the Baths and the London School of Medicine and Dentistry. During her master's program, she volunteered with a student-led organization called Teddy Bear Hospital, where she educated primary school children from various schools in London of Tower Hamlets of the general and dental health aspects. She then interned at the Central and the Northwest London collaboration of clinical commissioning groups with the Diabetes Transformation Program. So we see that you have actively worked with respect to non-communicable diseases and the core of public health. So moving on, Vaishnavi was always driven by the onset of the pandemic and the pressing need for oral health education to create web comics. Now, these web comics and social media are actually designed to promote community oral health, as opposed to traditional learning methods. Cartoons and Japanese anime played a very influential role in her education and learning. So therefore, she wishes to demonstrate the potential of graphic art in oral health education and dentistry. So she presently works as an associate at the Center for Teacher Accreditation, where she partakes in various assessment strategies which aid in upskilling these teachers in India. So that's a little bit about Vaishnavi. I think I'd like to pass on the proceedings to Vaishnavi now.
Thank you, Renzi. Yeah, so I'll just share my screen. I have a short presentation for you all.
Yeah, you may share your slide. Yeah.
So once again, hello to everybody and welcome. Thank you for joining in. So let me tell you my background once again. I did my BDS in Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences in Bangalore, where I am currently situated. And like everybody else, I also did not like public health, believe it or not, when I was studying my BDS. So I'm sure many of you can relate, because that is something that even a lot of my lecturers did not like. And here I was doing a master's, planning to do a master's in public health. Now, before I get to that, I'd like to ask all of you, was public health your first choice when you finished your BDS?
Yeah.
Could you please, could
Yeah,
all
I
of you
think
please?
you all could use your
I think-
chat box and let us know.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we have a couple of PGs. Yes, Srinidhi.
Actually,
And,
yes, I will just answer like this only, like not actually. It was certainly no, yes.
Dr. Vikrant, hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, sir. Hi. Good to have you. Yes. So at least for me, it was a definite yes.
Yeah, it was a definite yes, because I think I started teaching public health in an internship only because we never had teachers then. So that was why it was a yes for me.
Okay. Anybody else? If you could just type in the chat box, that would be fine.
Yes, guys. So was public health the first choice after BDS? Any of the postgraduates? Yeah, pretty much now that you don't have a choice after you get into it. But to begin with, was it your choice? Or was it just like classic dentistry, born out of chance and not choice? We have Zeba who's also attending. Yes, Chaiti, please use the chat box, a yes or a no.
Sorry, can all of you see my screen? Because my chat box is on. I'm not sure if you can see the full screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Vaishnavi.
Yeah. So a lot of yeses. Quite surprising because in my college there were a lot of people who did not like it, including some of my lecturers. So that's nice. Yeah, so if it was your first choice, why did you want to choose public health? And if it wasn't, why did you not want to choose public health?
Yes, guys. So if a yes, why so? If not, we'd also like to know why. I think we can start with the yeses. Yes, Dr. Vikrant, why a yes?
Yeah, one of the reasons why yes was because I never had, like she was just talking that the lecturers also never liked teaching public health. We actually didn't have anyone teaching us public health. So when I started reading public health, I found it very interesting because it gave me an opportunity to think and to look beyond, as you said, classical dentistry, and look beyond that. Though I was still an amateur when I started, even after reading it, I still hardly had any, opinions, because I never interacted with a public health dentist for long, till I met my first public health dentist, was Dr. S.S. Hiremat, and he came in as an examiner, and only I was asked definitions, and I think that also did kill some interest till I reached internship. And even internship, we never had a department at all. I'm talking about 2000. So, 2001, when we never had public health dentistry as a subject much then. But then slowly, when I started my post graduation, I started loving it, knowing that the scope was there. But again, in post graduation, also the focus in SDM was more clinical as well as outreach programs. But over the years, I've realized how public health can be shaped into, and how you get shaped because of public health. And it's been like, what, 15 years now since public health dentistry. So I think it's love of my life after my wife.
That's a nice way of putting it, sir. Great.
Yeah, and Srinidhi says that she loves to practice, and I would agree with you because I loved clinical dentistry as much as anybody else would. But again, I thought that that's the mainstream. and I wanted to do something different. So I thought, why not? Why not just try something different? And believe it or not, I actually failed in public health internals during my final year. I got 9 out of 100, and I did not like it that much. So you can imagine how I felt when I chose public health. But towards the end of my internship, like you said, Vikrant, I started understanding it. Until then, it was just definitions. I didn't know why we were learning what we were learning. But then I had one of my friends explain to me what it was all about, and I was one of the high scorers towards the end of my final year. So then I went on to study at Queen Mary in London. I did my master's in dental public health. And there like Vikrant said, I learned what public health was all about. It wasn't just about clinical practice. It wasn't just about outreach programs. It was about something so much more. I realized that you can work towards oral health, towards a better oral health, during doing non-clinical strategies as well. Like, for example, catering. Now, for my master's degree, I did a dissertation where I had to interact with the coffee shop that was in my university. So over there, I collaborated with the caterers, and we made sure that all of the food that was being served in the dental hospital is up to the standards. Because as a dental college, as dentists, we should make sure that the food that we are providing to the patients is in line with the message that we're giving to them. Because otherwise, what's the point? And that's an example for catering. And storybooks is something that I did not know about. I didn't think you could improve oral health through storybooks until one of my professors, Dr. Cynthia, she shared with us one of her research projects that involved creating children's storybooks. So what they did was they created, I think it was for primary school children, they created storybooks that incorporated public health messages, which would let children know that the importance of maintaining your oral health and all that from a very young age. And again, policies, I had assignments where I had to design policies, find out the gaps that were already there existing, and create policies for better oral health. And research, of course, there is a lot of gap in this area, and I think doing more research would help oral health in a lot of ways. And I'm saying this from both clinical and non-clinical perspectives, because of course, clinical dentistry is very important and you cannot do without it. But at the same time, when public health dentists always speak about prevention and how can you prevent going to the dentist? And there aren't that many ideas or strategies that people have created to, prevent it. I mean, there is education, yes, but how many of you agree that education would help people? I mean, if you tell a patient, please don't do this, please don't do that, or please follow this, do you think they will listen? I mean, from my experience, you keep telling them, but they don't. So, yeah, that was what I learned in my master's. And after that, I did an internship at the Northwest London CCGs, where I worked with the diabetes transformation program. Now, yes, it was another communicable disease, was working towards another non-communicable disease. But I did learn so much more. So whatever I learned during my master's, I did that in practice while I was at the NHS. So everything from health economics, from planning, surveys, doing pilot studies, and all of these things, I saw it firsthand at the NHS. And I mean, until you get to see it with your own eyes, you don't understand what you're studying. And I'm really fortunate that I got to work with them and see how it's actually being done. Now, while I was at the NHS, I wanted to do something for dentistry as well. So this was my own contribution while I was interning there. One of my colleagues, Nurse Ruth Miller, she was a diabetes specialist. She did these 10-point training programs. So she went to each hospital in Northwest London and she gave them 10 points, these 10 points, like what you see on the picture here. She told them to just remember these 10 points when you're treating a patient who's living with diabetes. And I thought, why not do it for dental teams? Because we also get patients, a lot of patients who have to live with diabetes. And many of us, we would have learned it back in school, but I mean, how many of us think of it when we're actually treating a patient? So I helped her create this 10-point training for dental teams. This was just before the pandemic began, so they couldn't roll out the training process, but hopefully in the near future, they will go to dental practices and maybe educate them on diabetes and such. And right now I am working as an associate at the Center for Teachers Accreditation in Bangalore. Which is not related to dentistry, but it's still about teaching. And I thought I could learn a lot from that as well because of my future plans. But that's about me. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, Vaishnavi, I think that's pretty much the background, what you've given us, like all the time from Oxford to working with the NHS, specifically the diabetes transformation. We'd like to know what was it like in terms of the priority areas, because did you get to choose to pick up the particular transformation program, or you had to opt it out?
That unfortunately was not something I chose. It was something that I got and I took my opportunity at it. And it was a good learning experience as well. I mean, as a dentist, I wanted to know more about other things out there. Because in college, I only learned what subjects I had. So it was quite an eye-opener for me. But no, I did not, to answer your question, I did not get to choose that.
All right. Okay. So any more questions for anybody else so far? Feel free to unmute yourselves. And
yeah, or if you don't want to, you can always type it in the chat box.
Yeah. I mean, we're doing this more of an interactive panel because Vaishnavi insisted that she doesn't want to lecture. That's the last thing she'd like to do on a Sunday evening, and all of us are used to listening to lectures. But nevertheless, okay, so I think that's pretty much interesting story so far. I think people are curious to hear more. Yeah.
Yeah. So if there are no questions, I'd like to go forward.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So before I go to the next slide, I'd like you all to participate in this and be honest and just type yes or no in the chat box. And I would really appreciate it if all of you did. Now, in the next slide, there are two sections. There is a section on the right and there's a section on the left. Now, I want you to say which section your eyes diverted to first. Okay, did you look towards the right or did you look towards the left? Well, as soon as I change the side, please type in where you looked at first.
I'm still looking there. Okay, Shah says right. Kansa says right.
Left.
Adri, okay, Adri, we have a left as well. Quick as quick. What caught your attention?
Yeah, seems like except for one person, everybody chose right. So that's the thing, when we're learning public health in college, if you can see the textbook yourself, there aren't that many pictures. It's quite monochromatic. And I'm a person who learns through pictures. I would always go to YouTube and watch videos, animated videos, to understand a topic better. So, and also when I was in college, I'm not sure how many people used to do this in college, but I would doodle a lot while the lecture was going on. And I remember once thinking that it would be much easier to learn this topic if there was a cartoon on it. Because as a kid, and right now, I still watch cartoons. Might be a little childish, but yeah, it helps me learn. There's a lot of learning through pictures. So that was the reason I decided to start my page on Instagram called Truth Comics. Now, the name is something that's new because I wanted the word tooth in it. If you take out the R, it says Tooth Comics, but which is that was really common. And this was something that I wanted to do towards a patient audience. So I thought that they should know the reason why we're giving instructions. A lot of times we just tell them, please do this, please do that. Like you finish filling up a cavity, you tell them, don't do this for so long. Don't eat for so long, don't drink for so long, but they don't know why. So through my comics, I try to tell them why we're giving them such instructions. And I wanted them to know the truth, which was why I added the R in between the word truth. So you can please check it out if you're interested on Instagram. How many of you are on Instagram? I'd love to connect with you.
Yeah, I guess almost.
Okay. Yeah, so like I said, I had the idea when I was in undergrad, and in 2019, when I was about to finish my master, I came up with these designs. I thought I really should do something about it. So these were the first designs, and the one that you see that I made in November 2019, that was for the diabetes program, although they didn't take it up. But it was an idea that I had that could probably have, if I'd done it better, they would have been interested in it. But this was just hand sketches, and I really wanted to do digital art because that's something that's trending these days. Nobody really picks up a comic book to read. Everybody's on Instagram seeing pictures on Instagram. And I myself follow a lot of comic pages on Instagram. So I wanted to do digital art. And once I got back from London last year, I got this special gift. I don't know if you can all see me. Can you see my... Hello?
Yeah, Vaishnavi, we can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a graphic tablet, and I use this pen to make my digital art on Instagram. It was a really special gift, and I enjoy making the art. So this is one of my comics on Instagram. I'll give you some time to go through it. Now, can somebody tell me what instruction I was trying to give through this comic?
Yes, guys. So what instruction are we looking at here?
So that we should change after every 3 to 4 months, we should change our toothbrush once it gets frayed, and we can use it for some other purpose like cleaning the sink or something maybe.
Yes.
Very nice one.
Yeah, and here's another one. Again, what do you think I'm trying to tell them through this?
Those parts are it.
So the one on the left is the first panel and the one on the right is the second. Anyone?
There's less saliva production at night time, so it's important for us to brush. Otherwise, the bacteria are going to attack more.
Yes. And here's another
Hi,
one.
Captain.
Now, we usually tell patients, please brush with the fluoride toothpaste, please brush at night. But I don't know if you have seen people, but I personally have never done that. And I haven't seen many people who have given the reason behind their instructions. And I thought it's important for people to know why we're telling them, why we're giving those instructions. And maybe they would be interested to do it, maybe not, but at least they know that, at least they're conscious that this is what happens. And if I don't do it, this is what's going to happen. So this is about fluoride toothpaste and why we should use fluoride. Can I change the slide?
Yes.
Yeah, so this was how I used to study back in college, and that is the Soben Peter textbook. I would highlight everything that's important, make some notes next to it. And honestly, I did not know what those objectives were. Can you see the objectives right there? I did not understand what those objectives meant. But now I do, fortunately. So this was just to paste in my mind and produce it in the exam. I wasn't really learning anything. And this is how I would have liked to study when I was in college, if I had something like this comic right here to tell me what incidents meant. Incidents is just a person who is joining an already existing group of people who are part of a diseased population. So here I didn't want to use any disease in particular, and that's why I use baldness. So a new person is joining the group of bald people, and that's essentially what incidence means. A new person is joining, and how many new people are there? That's what incidence means. Here is another one about point prevalence. Now, we all know what prevalence means, but what exactly is point prevalence? The important point to note here is at that given point of time, which is why I added a tourist over here, because we all know that a tourist can come and go. They can be part of a population on a day, and they'll be out of it the next day. And that is what point prevalence means. Anybody who is there at one particular point of time. And if you've finished reading the comic, I will change.
Yes, ma'am.
So how do you think you would like to study? Because I do have some ideas to do this currently on my Instagram page, it's mostly directed to a patient population. And I also think that it will be interesting for dental students to learn this way, which personally, I would like it if I'd studied like that. So what do you think would be better, learning only through text or learning only through comics? A combination of both. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
A small question, Vaishnavi, before we go on. Now, since you proposed the idea of utilizing the visual representation, right? So in terms of comics, now essentially even comic is supplemented by text, like a visual representation. So would you consider that in entirety as a comic strip, or would you see that as comic supported by text? Like,
I would see it as comic supported by text because, and again, text is a little bit of text is important. And I agree with Zaiba and Srinidhi that there should be a combination of both. But I would say that having comics or cartoons or any sort of picture, it doesn't have to be cartoon-like, any sort of picture to get a better grasp of the concept would lead to better learning. And yeah, so comics alone, I wouldn't say comics alone would be the best choice to learn.
true, yes. So I think pretty much the audience agrees that we need to bring in a dash of comic-based learning. All right. Okay. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So now I'd like to have a small session where all of us could maybe create a comic right now, if you're up for it. What do you say, guys?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, guys, I think get moving. Vaishnavi is going to make us work right now. She said like a teacher. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So if now, before we start, I'd like to discuss some of the difficult topics. It could be when in a clinical situation, or it could be in a classroom situation. What do you think are the most difficult topics for people to understand that we could maybe create as a comic and maybe create a story behind it to encourage better learning? Could you please expand on that, Nancy?
Yeah. So what I was suggesting, Vaishnavi, is when we write the community diagnosis, and this is what most of the public health dentists here or in the making would resonate with, we need to put down the whole summary, the case findings, how we would like to extrapolate it into the community situation. So that's usually a challenge, and it's a lot of text, maybe 10, 12, 15 lines put together. And probably even treatment planning in terms of comprehensive treatment planning with the levels of prevention incorporated if you would want to suggest to a patient, or even devise it, probably improve. These are something which I could think of. It's an open house. So
yeah, that's good. Anybody else? Okay, epidemiological studies.
yes.
Yeah, so I'd like you all to maybe think of a story on how you would teach these things. And if you have a pen and a paper next to you, it would be interesting to see what you've created. It can be just stick figures. And while you do it, I'll do something by on my paper right here. So create a story or a short comic with stick figures, or however you find comfortable, and let's share it in 10 minutes. What do you think? Topical fluorides, yeah. I think that's interesting too. I mean, if you don't want to draw, you can also discuss the story that you would build around that topic and how to better teach students or patients on that topic. So I'm going to get started with mine.
Yes, please. Yes, guys. So anybody has any starting points here? Yes, Zeba, how would you like to put forward the steps of epidemiological study designs in the form of your own illustration or story? Try to be a little imaginative and get this out. Vaishnavi,
Yeah.
we are so used to penning down content in terms of text and plain boring text that we're actually doing something for the first time figuratively to do that.
Well, I don't know
Quite
if
a
it's good or
challenge. Quite a
bad.
challenge. That's pretty good. Yes, Adri has a story she'd like to share for web of causation. That's a very interesting topic. Yes,
Sure.
Adri, keep going.
So when I was studying for my final year, I used to make it's like it's difficult to study from the textbook because it gets very monotonous. So a lot of us tend to make notes. But when we're making notes, that also tends to get really monotonous quite often. And a lot of us use different colored pens and we doodle and we do a lot of those things. But I was thinking about, I never really thought about making a proper visual representation of a topic to understand it. So when we're talking about the concepts of causation, there is a lot of there are a lot of headings, there are a lot of subheadings. The subheadings have subheadings. It gets very confusing, especially when you're reading it for the first time. So for the web of causation, this is just an idea. I just thought of it. I'm not sure if I can articulate it properly, but I'll try. So in the web of causation, it essentially states that there is a disease and the cause is unknown or uncertain, but it has multiple factors, right? So in I'm not that much of a comic person, but I'm a meme person. So, and a lot of our a majority of our generation understands memes a lot easier than other things. So when it comes to the web of causation, if we could if we could make a storyline where there is a person, let's call the person A. The person A has a certain disease, and this could be used as a comic too. The person A has a disease, and they don't know what exactly is causing their disease, because there are so many factors. So say I have um, some I have pain in my hand, not dental related, but I have pain in my hand, and I go to the doctor and I don't really understand why it's happening. And at first sight, whatever comes to the doctor's mind, whatever is the most probable cause, the doctor says that, but it doesn't end up helping me. And in now, say I am a layman and I do not have any idea how any of this works. I'm not aware about how it happens, or what am I supposed to do, or if there is anything that I can do at all. So I would just go, and a lot of people don't ask questions, but the doctor will say, if there's a storyline, it can be funny, because comics are supposed to be, they're supposed to be funny, or they get very bland. So if I'm sorry, I'm not very good at articulating this. I'm just it's very impromptu extempore kind of a thing.
No, it's been really clear so far. Please go on.
So I go to the doctor. The doctor says you have pain, but maybe maybe you fell. Maybe you fell, or maybe you had some you held something very heavy, and that caused some kind of strain. But I said, no, I did nothing. Nothing of that sort happened to me. And then the doctor's like, maybe you have and then after, maybe you have some other issue, like, do you, and sometimes the doctors go from 0 to 100 very quick. They'll say, oh my god, you don't have this if you don't have pain because of this, you have to get all these expensive tests done, and you have some weird disease that we have never heard of before and that you can't pronounce, and something of that sort happens, and the doctor will ask me. And but it could be a lot of, it can be kind of a it can be a comic, it can be a film strip sort of a thing, where the doctor asks the patient, why do you eat well? And the patient says no. Why don't you eat well? Well, I have, talking about the socioeconomic status of the patient. Maybe the patient cannot afford to eat well, or they have or if the patient is me and I have a lot of work in college, or I'm not getting the time to eat as healthy as I should. And the doctor says, okay, maybe it's related to your diet. But what if it's not related to my diet? There could be something else. Maybe maybe as a broke student, I blew up all my money for the month, and I don't have the funds to eat healthy food, and or something of that sort. Or maybe I've just been, I have some kind of already existing systemic disease that is causing it. And most of the time the doctors, we are told to take case history, but I don't but after a point nobody really asks these questions to patients, it because it's a matter of time and money, and so it gets very fast. And at that point, everybody is just thinking, okay, this patient has come, we have to ask them this. And everybody has this very specific kind of thing in their head that if this is happening, it's this, or if that is happening, it's that. And they don't really think that why is it really, what is causing it. We give the diagnosis just like that at times, and not always, but sometimes we kind of don't take take enough interest in the patient's background, some because we don't honestly have the time to do that all the time. And the doctor could ask me, like, you are only 24 years old, you can't have that disease. And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm a layman person, how would I know if I have a disease or not? And like something of that sort. So if somebody wrote a storyline for me instead of the whole a bunch of paragraphs at one shot, and I have to read them, or I have to make notes out of a paragraph, which will be a, a paragraph in bullet points essentially, it would be easier for me to recall that, okay, I understand the concept. If I'm asked to write it down in the exam, I can put it in my own words, or I can use the keywords that are given in the book, and I can articulate myself better. So the examiner knows that I know, and I also have some kind of confidence that it's not something that I'll just immediately forget after I've written the exam.
Interesting that you said that, because I was thinking along the same lines, which is, I took the example of COVID-19. I didn't finish it, but can you see this? So here is a couple of people having cough and fever, and the scientist doesn't know what's going on. So then he has an idea to do a couple of tests. I stopped it right there when you started talking, but he has a couple of ideas on how to know what's going on. So that's when he thinks of conducting some experimental tests and experimental research, which is the reason behind conducting experimental research is to understand what's happening in the population better. So that was what I was trying to create. And I guess you were thinking along the same lines, although mine was more of a population. And you were speaking about a single person.
Yes. So I think Adri put out a very nice story related to the web of causation. We do have a couple of more stories coming in. Yes, Srinidhi.
Yes. Yes, I wanted to share this, that this actually happened in the department. That one of my senior was having a seminar over health behavior models, which we first years were confronting it for the first time actually. And in the first part of the seminar, she did put, she started from the year of its origin and the people who made it, history of that theory model. But then exactly we couldn't determine what is exactly the difference between, for example, if it is trans theoretical model and theory of reasoned action and planned behavior. So what I suggested my ma'am was just put some animated video if you can in the next part, so that we can catch. Okay, obviously we will be reading that after going back to the room, but at that time, in the time of presentation, it's very important to make sure that the point is delivering to the audience. So when I said that, the very next day in the part 2, she did put animated video of in each and individual health theories, and me and my batchmates were successfully, like, we could take up that into our head. So that's a very a powerful point about the comics or animation or animated video. I really feel it should be included consciously in every teachings, especially in the first, when it is a first time teaching, like, or something like that.
Yeah, Srinidhi. I think that's a very, very valid point what you raised here, because I mean, look at this. When we talk about representation of art forms, right? The visual, either it's in terms of a comic strip, as is what Vaishnavi has been doing over the years, or it could be illustrations, it could be graphic images, or it could be stories relevant. Now, what actually works well is because whatever knowledge we imbibe, it gets fragmented along with the picture of it, right? So it's simple. The more text we read, the less likely we are to remember or recollect from it. Okay, because the picture to start off with, there is a lot of creative visualization which goes behind that, and apart from that, it establishes a firm memory. You could say like a subunit, and scientifically, theories have proven this beyond any doubt that we recollect and recreate the scene, and that's how the human mind is designed to perform. And that's why when we talk about creative representation also, we could brainstorm and try to explain a concept, or the other way around, use a lot of pictures and videos and so many things alike. So that's a very valid point. Yeah, Vaishnavi.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I was just going to say the same thing. Unless you have pictures, I mean, there are some people who understand better through text and words, but yeah, for people like me, mostly we learn through pictures. And if there's a picture or a story right there in front of us, we grasp it much quicker and for a longer time. Is there anybody else who would like to share their story, or if you've drawn a comic?
Yeah. So if anybody else has, otherwise I have something which I've made, Vaishnavi, I'd like to share.
Sure, please. I'd love to see
Okay.
it.
So again, this was my attempt at horribly drawing this. Can you all see this? Okay, so it's basically 3 different gateways here, and I'm trying to explain the levels of treatment planning and how it basically works, right? So they've been designed in terms of a game like Super Mario or something, which I had in mind. So you've got to pass through the various levels in terms of easy and moderate and the tougher levels, which are we have to encounter. And I would like to relate them to primary and secondary and tertiary, which is essentially the way how we devise treatment planning. So again, like we see, maybe I mean, I'm not that good at sketching. Maybe I tried my first today, but then if it is put in the proper shape and form, we could have the primary part, which is your health education and your specific protection and all the treatments which come in with that, as thought bubbles where we're trying to bring about some behavior change, or we're giving sealants and resins in one part of it. So it could essentially be an outline of a game. And once you clear the first gateway, then you go to the second one, where there's a lot of people. Okay, you could use some visuals where men are at work kind of signboards could be used. And people are really working hard because they are restoring the function, and they're almost rebuilding, when it goes from the restorative, surgical to probably the prosthetic and the rehabilitative stages. So that's a little bit what I could think of.
I love that idea. I think in one of my comics that I posted on Instagram, I did go with the gaming route because, like you said, there are certain levels, and after each one, you go to the next one. This is the next step of diagnosis, and this is what you do next. So I really like that, and I can already picture it in my mind with Mario jumping on different bricks.
Yeah, like we could have a public health Mario who navigates through all of the various levels and gains points, and you could actually relate to the in terms of the relative cost effectiveness, express in terms of valleys and valleys and how much have we gained by avoiding the accumulated costs which would have otherwise shot up at a later stage. I mean, there could be a lot of integration at various levels. It depends again on what we need to set out. All right. Any more story, guys? Any more stories? Anybody? Anything you'd like to share? Even if it's a primitive form, feel free to put this forward, right? I mean, we've got a platform here, and we have a graphic artist who's put shape to many of her ideas, so she would be able to put this forward. Yeah.
I wouldn't call myself a graphic artist. I'm still an amateur, but just trying to do whatever is possible.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I'd love to hear some of your stories because I mean, thinking of ideas itself is really hard. And if any of you can give me some ideas, then probably in the next couple of weeks, I could post that on Instagram and maybe tag you all.
Hmm. There's another, meanwhile, I mean, if anybody is wanting to do this, there's this common story which I use in my classes to explain the principles of epidemiology, right? So if you have to explain the concept of what is epidemiology to a beginner, maybe like an intro level of image, I would simply put it in terms of the name, place, animal thing format, right? Epidemiology is essentially once you set out, you don't really know where what is linked and what can be the causals and what could be the determinants, all of that. So let's say if we have a picture which says, let's play a game with uh, a pictorial representation of the letter A. Now, the letter A, again, we devise with a name, let's say Akash, a place, Ahmedabad, and an animal, probably an ant or an antelope, and the thing would be an axe. So you have four different words which are completely unrelated to each other, all right? But that's what exactly epidemiology is. Like when you set out to investigate, you don't really know. So my objective here is to put forward the various principles, like, accurate observations and then inferences and then a rational construction and scientific construction, all of that. So Akash could be from Ahmedabad. He could be scared of ants. He probably, would be possessing an axe with him, like that. So there's multiple interrelationships. We could just keep that open pictographically. I mean, you would already picture things in your mind right now as I'm giving you the text background. So the only thing which links all of them is the letter A. But beyond that, whatever is there to know is the science of epidemiology, which is a quest to collect a lot of information and definitely know and pose specific questions like, okay, I need to have a hypothesis to find out whether a certain Akash is from Ahmedabad. So I have any supporting evidence. That's how an epidemiological statement becomes an assumption and eventually becomes a hypothesis and basis. So something of that sort. Yeah.
Interesting. Anybody else? I mean, if you could type it, that's fine too. You don't have to speak.
We have Adri, who's made a comic for the WHO definition of health. Yeah, that's interesting. Go on, Adri. Would you like to share your? Let me just spotlight that for you. Okay.
So a lot of us have trouble doing definitions. So I mean, I don't know how much you can see.
Yeah, could you just pull that a little on top? Yeah, much better.
So it's mirrored, but I hope you can make out. So the WHO definition says that health is a state of complete physical, mental, social well-being and all. So I made like a bicep for the physical, and like somebody is meditating for the mental, and there's a group of people who are laughing for the social. And then there's somebody with a mask and there's a cross on it to signify absence of disease.
Interesting.
I tried.
I love it. That's really nice.
That's really really thoughtful. I think Vaishnavi. Now, for something like what was wonderfully suggested by Adri, right? When we set out to picturize concepts in terms of cartoons or elements, like how do we go about this? Like, this is probably for beginners like me who would really interested. Do we put down the elements what we want to establish at the end of the reading? And how do we stitch? Is it like you stitch a storyboard, a canvas first, and then lead to the character arc? Or is it putting on everything and then making the interconnections? I hope I could
Yeah, I got it.
You got
So
that, right? Yeah.
what I do is I think of a topic like how we just did today, a topic that I think would benefit others. And then I link that topic to real life experiences. Like let's say in the coffee picture that you just saw, um, it's kind of like the teeth are swimming in the coffee every single day, which is why I made it as fish. I made the teeth as fish. So I first think of what the topic is, then create a story behind it, anything that I think would link it to that, and then just put it down on paper. And I'd also like to say that this isn't just my idea. There is quite a bit of evidence that's supporting comics in healthcare. I don't know if you all have heard about graphic medicine. It's an organization by Dr. Ian Williams. He started it a couple of years ago. He's a UK doctor who is now in the US, and he created this organization for patients, doctors, nurses, anybody in the healthcare field to create comics and just to tell their story to the audience. So you can check that out. It's called Graphic Medicine. And they also have conferences every year. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to attend the one last year, but yeah, that's it, Graphic Medicine. And along with this, there's also a professor in the Manchester Metropolitan University, who's called Sarah McNicol. She has done quite a lot of research on how comics can help in healthcare and the potential that comics have in improving healthcare. Also, I've been recently in contact with Dr. Partha Kar and Mayank Patel. These two are again doctors in the UK who are diabetes specialists, and they have created type 1. It was, wait, what is it called? Yeah, it's called Type 1 Origins. Now, this is for type 1 people who have type 1 diabetes, and for them to know more about how to live with type 1 diabetes, and just to encourage them that you're not the only one, that this is what you can do and things like that. So they've created comics on diabetes. Again, there's another person I've recently been in contact with from New Zealand. His name is Dr. Richard Klingon. He created comics on COVID-19, and he's also a doctor. Yeah. So measles and COVID-19. I think he's published a couple of comic books on them as well. So there is quite a bit of evidence, although it's not much. It's there in other fields, and why not do it in dentistry? I mean, I haven't seen so far anybody doing anything in dentistry. And it would be great if any of us could start comic books like that on oral health.
True. That's a very pertinent thing what you mentioned, Vaishnavi. I think by means of using comics and all the evidence which you shared, I think from graphic medicine to the recent example of measles and COVID, a very elementary level at what this is happening in terms of pictographically representing content, educational content, either in terms of patient education or it could be student-centered. We've had the NCRT at the school level, which does a lot of work in this direction. In fact, the National Curriculum Framework, I just want to share with the audience here. I mean, way back when we read in school, we would see the textbooks as plain boring, not being very imaginative. Today, there is a committee at a national level who brainstorm and devise and design every single page of every subject. I mean, there's a subject expert, there's an illustrator, and the people working towards this. And it's one of the recommended changes, suggestions in the education policy as well. So we can see this happening at various levels. Now, why this becomes very important, guys, is your textbook or your reading material is your window to the subject or the specialty as you indulge yourself, right? So all of us probably started reading public health dentistry, whether we like it or not, by opening up a textbook and going through the content. Now, I really don't want to blame any textbook or anything because it was developed in a certain context to bring to the forefront a collective database of information for that subject. But then we got evolved in this direction, and now we have textbooks which give elaborate references. I mean, they all give you suggested reading. But then, with respect to the creative visualization of concepts and framework, especially for a subject like public health dentistry, which actually the foundational basis lies in understanding the concepts. If I were to explain a common risk factor approach, or could be an upstream or downstream approach, I would really want to have the help of cartoons or images or pictures to put this forward in the most appropriate way. One, for better attention from exam point of view, because students remember things only what they like. And to increase the likability factor, I would want to bring in a lot of content which they can relate to, maybe existing, like how Adri mentioned, in terms of the memes and whatever is trending. And we see these things. So when we are living in a world with information overload, I think what really is important is how we assimilate and articulate the knowledge, which aids in better understanding and therefore finds its utility in our day-to-day purposes. So that's exactly what we're looking at. Yeah. So I think can we have thoughts from yeah, sorry, Vaishnavi, do you have any more exercises for us? You didn't make us do a comic and all of that.
No, unfortunately, that was it.
Okay. All right. So I think we can take a small musical break here because as promised earlier, Dr. Adritanaya, she has put together, I mean, she was wanting to have a special for Vaishnavi because right, I mean, she hadn't known all these things, and today in the process of the session we discovered that we do have comic artists everywhere. Yes, Adri, can we have you on board, please? Yeah. So we'll keep the discussion going, guys. We do have a couple of PGs would be having some questions and would like to share anything. Let's quickly go to Adri. Yes, Adri, what do you got for us?
Well, I don't think it fits the whole comic themed session we have going on, but I'm a Sufi singer as such, so I have 2 Sufi songs prepared. They're a little not
Go on.
peppy as such.
We're all ears.
अर्ज़ियाँ सारी मैं चेहरे पे लिख के लाया हूँ, तुमसे क्या मांगूं मैं, तुम खुद ही समझ लो मौला 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 मेरे मौला 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 मेरे मौला 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 दरारे दरारे है बाले पे मौला मरम्मत मुकद्दर की कर दो मौला मेरे मौला तेरे दर पे झुका हूँ मिटा हूँ बना हूँ, तेरे दर पे झुका हूँ मिटा हूँ बना हूँ, मरम्मत मुकद्दर की कर दो मौला, जो भी तेरे दर आया, झुकने जो सर आया, मस्तियां भी सबको झूमता नजर आया। जो भी तेरे दर आया, झुकने जो सर आया, मस्तियां भी सबको झूमता नजर आया। प्यास लेके आया दादरिया वो भर लाया, नूर की बारिश में भीगता सदर आया। नूर की बारिश में नूर की बारिश में भीगता सदर आया। मौला 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 मेरे मौला, मौला 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 मौला, दरारे दरारे मारे में मौला, मरम्मत कर दे कर दो मौला मेरे मौला। I have one more song. Thank you, sir. तेजा तेरा रंग था मैं तो, तेजा तेरा रंग था मैं तो, जिया तेरे ढंग में तो, तू ही था मौला तू ही मेरे ले मेरी जान। तेजा तेरा रंग था मैं तो, जिया तेरे ढंग से मैं तो, तू ही था मौला तू ही यार, मौला मेरे ले मेरी जान। तेरे संग खेली होली, तेरे संग की दिवाली, तेरे अंगनों की छाया, तेरे संग सा बनाया। तेरे लिए तू चाहे नजरे चाहे चुरा ले, लौट के तू आएगा रे शर्त लगा ले। तीजा तेरा रंग था मैं तो, तीजा तेरा रंग था मैं तो, जिया तेरे ढंग से मैं तो, तू ही था मौला तू ही यार, मेरे ले मेरी जान।
That was really nice, Adri. If you don't mind, I just have a small suggestion. Have you heard of the singing dentist? Who's from the UK?
Yes, yes, I've heard.
I think maybe you could do something like that.
I don't think I'm that dynamic for it.
I mean, I'm not good with music myself, but I could maybe create lyrics. It's all about incorporating art forms and humanities into dentistry, to just encourage learning better. So
if I could get lyrics, then I could work on it on myself.
You can make it yourself with beautiful singing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adri, for lighting up the evening with that beautiful rendition. I think more part to you, girl. I mean, you've got to channelize and like how Vaishnavi mentioned here. I think you should really work on that and probably make the most out of it. So awesome, great. Okay, so thank you so much, Adri, for that rendition. Okay, so as we come to the end of the session now, we'd like to have the audience maybe probably share their thoughts. Yes, Tanushree. Tanushree, would you like to say something? Your experiences, since you're a pediatric dentist, you would be more interested in probably devising cartoons and all of that, whatever we've discussed. Yes.
Yeah, actually, as Dr. Vaishnavi has literally taken it as a career and all, it feels great actually, like as a pediatric dentist. for me, making a kid understand the concept of prevention is very difficult, because their cognitive level is in such a way that I have to really get onto that level and make them understand what I want to convey, be it a treatment plan, be it a diagnosis, or be it anything. So I think when she was like, even I went to her Instagram profile when she was talking to all of us. I mean, it makes more sense, because we all know that kids have more fascination towards cartoon. I mean, as she very correctly said, being a 27-year-old, I still watch cartoon. I still love Tom and Jerry. I still get back to the Cartoon Network. So it's but obvious that all the pediatric patients who come to me are more fascinated about like Tom and Jerry or any kind of comic characters. So this is something which we usually like try to follow in our clinical practice, not in a comic way, because I'm not good in art and drawing, just like how Dr. Denzi also admitted the fact that he's not good in art. So yeah,
I think we lost her.
Yeah, I think we lost her. Okay, she would rejoin. Okay, meanwhile, I'd like to just share some content here and about Truth Comics. Yes, Vaishnavi, is that your page?
Yes, that's my Instagram page.
Okay, so you're a former dentist trying to raise oral health awareness with comics. Okay, so we really want wish all of you just check out the page and look at the various content here. And if you just probably would have a look at some of the posts here. Okay, here is top tunes, AK, okay, and accordingly how the various posts. Okay, this is bugs waiting. Okay, you create characters, right? You create characters, fictional. And accordingly, we see a lot of very imaginative content. And this is the coffee stains. So swimming in coffee for so long. And as imaginative as it gets, like the toothbrush fables, there's a master chop which people would relate to. Okay, so this is mostly directed towards patient awareness. Yes, so in the series of the posts here, we notice that the incisor is the cutter, the canine, the terror, the premolar, the crusher, and we have molar, the grinder. Okay, so that's really imaginative and interesting. And then another one which really caught my imagination was your story of Tartarville. So that was pretty interesting here. So Tartarville is, can see it coming, and then we have, the PDL, and this place really exists. So this is something refreshing content, and how do we create upon a subject base and then get to the point and explain. So that's really interesting to know about this. So yes, guys, I think go on, explore. I think sky's the limit. You will have to just channelize your energies and make the most out of it. And there you go. And yes. Yes, Vaishnavi. So any closing thoughts? Yeah. Do we have Dhanushri? Yeah. Sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes, Dhanushri.
No, please go ahead.
yeah, so sorry for the internet connection loss. So I was actually like moved by the concept, like she has literally put her thought and that creative mindset to create that awareness or whatsoever, because as a pediatric dentist I can relate to all her comics to the max, because we really try our level best for a 2-year or 3-year old kid to understand why brushing is important. So we also make a lot of stories in the air, because I'm not good with the pencil or in my hand. So for me, it's like we make stories, and the entire, I mean, if I'm not wrong, the entire story is been put on a paper in a very pictorial format. That's what makes a comic really appealing and very eye-catchy for any kind of population. So I think it's time I should learn really making doodles and comics from Dr. Vaishnavi, so that I can have a really good pediatric practice after 4 months when I graduate as a postgraduate student. So I will be doing DMs to you, like how to come up with a very innovative and very creative comics just to put in my future clinic, because I very well know that it's going to really catch attention of all the pediatric patients who I'll be treating in future, as well as the parents, because I think for comics there is no age limit, so we all love comics. So I think that's a very interesting and very innovative attempt, which has been like, you're taking it up very seriously, because sometimes we just doodle, as Adri very correctly said, if a topic gets boring we start doodling, but you have literally taken it as a serious task. I mean, I must appreciate for that. I think I must thank Dr. Denzi to search such amazing talents which we are really not aware of. I mean, if someone tells me that there is a person who is really taking up comic as a serious task and putting it across to such a target population, I'll be like, no, you are kidding. Now, I mean, I won't say that, because I've met the person, I have understood what all goes behind to make it such a successful task. So I think kudos to you both for Denzi to come up with this theme and to search such talent. And Dr. Vaishnavi, you're doing a great job, and I'll meet you on Instagram for sure.
Thank you so much. I'd love to connect with you. And I bet you'd have more ideas as well. You have anything? I mean,
Yeah,
I noticed you did not participate during the activity earlier.
Yeah. Actually, there was some internet issues I had. Like whenever we talk to a pediatric patient, we make a lot of stories, like how we say, like as you very correctly said in one of your nighttime and daytime, we usually say the kid, like in the night, if you don't brush and sleep, there is a demon which comes only in the night and it will eat all your teeth if you don't brush properly. This is all, as I said, how we make stories, we make a 3-year-old or 4-year-old understand. But I'm good in convincing a patient, but I'm not great in art. So that's one aspect I really want to learn and then put into practice in future for sure.
Thank you, Vaishnavi, for sharing your thoughts. So anybody else would like to say anything? Yes, Srinidhi, why don't you share your thoughts on how did you find the session? What you could benefit out of it?
Yes, the ma'am has put it like all together. It's very to the point that in the first activity itself, she asked that which one you could see, that like whether you could see the picture or the paragraph written in it. It's a basic like a human mindset that whichever person is looking it for the first time or learning it for the first time, they will prefer a comic or a familiar picture. If a familiar a picture comes in front of the eyes and tells the concept to him or her, it will be a more easier task for delivering or conveying the lesson or a message. I really appreciate her work. Thank you.
Sure, Srinidhi. I think you could probably work on your slides and your seminar presentation to begin with, and add more of pictures.
Yes, yes. I'll really incorporate that point into my seminars.
Yes. And do say hi to Manjunath sir from all of us here.
Sure, sir.
Early supportive. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So if anybody else wants to chip in and say anything, please do. I think just that would really be a wrap for today. Thank you so much, everybody. At the outset, Dr. Vaishnavi for doing this, for sharing her thoughts and making this possible. Because frankly, when I stumbled upon her profile and could see the amazing things, the first thing which struck to me is that she has actually done it. I mean, we've all thought about it a million times, and I struggle as a teacher to put forward concepts and illustrations in the most imaginative form possible. So we all stay in the realm of presentations and try to make our slides more interactive and make it more. But this is one step. In fact, I would see it as a major leap where you're reinventing the content, and I'm really glad and happy that she did that with the background of studying dental public health and varied experiences. So that's when we decided that, okay, we need to have Vaishnavi on board and share and give out our experiences for all our students to probably pick up on some of the points and get going in their own direction. So thank you so much, Vaishnavi, for doing this. It again gives me immense pleasure to share that Vaishnavi will be collaborating with PhD 101, and we are also working upon for some content related to dental public health, just so that we could probably have a handbook for the dental public health topics. This would in no way replace the conventional reading material, but it would just probably expand and give a different perspective to the subject, which is otherwise perceived as dry and boring. So I think that is a way of doing this. So Vaishnavi would be working with us and be doing all the illustrations, and we'll be working together, and you would be seeing more of her. We wanted to get it across to the panel and get her familiar with our students and teachers and faculty and everybody alike. So thank you so much, Vaishnavi. Thank you for doing this and for sharing your thoughts. Also, I'd like to take a quick moment and thank Dr. Adrita Tiwari for that beautiful rendition that she did, and also all the amazing audience who've always been eager and very interested in what we put across, in making this Rendezvous series very special as the days go by. We try to keep this the way it is, and like I say, this is just a digital platform, but we're trying to humanize the experience. So in the end, it's human emotions, it's actual art and science and direction to make dentistry much better and more evolved than it is right now. So thank you all so much. Yes, Vaishnavi, I think your closing thoughts.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, it's great to see that a lot of people are liking my content and agree with my thinking. And yeah, it'd be great to be on board the Public Health Dentistry 101 and join you guys in doing more for the field. And again, thanks, Adrita, for the beautiful song and your contribution to the story that you've created. It was really nice. And thanks, Gnanishi. I'd love to work with you. So please feel free to ping me whenever you want on Instagram. And again, thanks to Denzi. I mean, I don't know how you found me.
I think I would say the principles of epidemiology, but I don't know what I'm going to hit upon, and just looking. And in fact, it was Vaishnavi's LinkedIn profile which led me to her. And the first time I came across Truth Comics, I thought there was a typo there because Truth and Comics I never heard of in the same sentence ever before. And then when I just went through her bio, and then I could see that, okay, she's got her training in dental public health, which further intrigued me. And then I was wondering, why has she come back? And currently she's connected with teacher evaluation and accreditation systems and all that. So I think curiosity led me to where it is. And I'm so happy and so glad that this happened because it again opens up so many more possibilities and much beyond. So thank you so much. All right, so that's a wrap. Thank you all so much for joining in today. We'll see you soon. Through the week, we have the academic sessions on Wednesdays as usual, and we'll be back next Sunday with another interesting Rendezvous series from a different person, a different personality, and a thought process. So yes, that's a wrap. So stay home, stay motivated, and continue to inspire people. Thank you all. Thank you so much.